Hello, and welcome to another episode of Immigration and Mobility Decoded, a podcast about global immigration and mobility. I am Eric, and joining me as always is my co host, Finn. Finn, it's been a while. A couple episodes ago, I think you lost your voice. How are things going?
Things are good. Summer picks up and becomes a lot more difficult to find a couple of hours to record a podcast, but we're still trying to get those conversations out there for the audience. How are you doing, Eric?
Doing good, doing good. Um, how's the recovery from losing your voice?
Oh, it's fine. It just took a couple of days. It's just U.S. air travel is still very crowded, especially this time of year. So
Yeah,
I don't want
definitely.
to I don't really want to know what sort of bacteria and viruses are circulating around those tubes of death.
You could say that again. You mean, speaking of summer, we're recording this, it's the last week of June before the 4th of July holiday. You got any good summer plans coming up?
Nothing too big. It's been kind of an endless spring here in the Northeast. A lot of rain. All the neighborhood dads insist that we need it. So
Yeah.
I believe them, but it is a little bit of a bummer. Kind of
Yeah.
stalls projects, stalls. Outdoor plans, that sort of thing. How's the Midwest? Any better? Are you getting a lot of storms too?
Yeah, the Midwest is a bit better. Similarly, hearing a lot from the dads about the lack of rain, and it's actually permeating through like online forums, like the Chicago subreddit, or people are like, "Where's the rain?" And being like, I don't want to sound like an older person caring about the lawn too much, but we're like, we need the rain. There's a drought, and this and that. So it's yeah, I don't know. Summer. Chicago is definitely very fun, though. Anyone listening, if you're either living here or if you're looking to make it out, I think nothing compares to Chicago summer. But I'm probably quite biased on that opinion. So Finn, yeah, we got a great episode ahead with Bryan Rivers, the relocation banking product manager at First Tech Federal Credit Union. Very awesome conversation about what his organization does and some of the products and services that they offer to foreign nationals and transferees coming over to the U.S. in terms of like bank accounts, so your checking accounts, savings accounts, and other products. So very much looking forward to that. But before we get there, as always, if you are listening on YouTube, definitely give us a subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, definitely would appreciate a follow. And then quickly, Finn, before we head into that episode, just wanted to catch up with you on some recent, immigration news and happenings, as you mentioned, summer. Yeah, I think a combination of the summer and then the current administration, things are definitely much more on the quiet front in terms of news and things that are happening. But you did mention there was an ALA conference recently, and there seems to be a pretty big update coming out in August about stateside visa renewals. I feel like we heard about that at the beginning of the year, but what more can you tell us?
Yeah. There were some trickles. Maybe back in February, Andrew Craybaum over at Bloomberg Law broke the story that the State Department would be reintroducing stateside visa renewals for H-1Bs and L-1s. That's something that the government did, way back, but for whatever reason stopped doing. And then the American Immigration Lawyers Association met in Orlando this past week. I'm sure there's a lot of great insights that'll come out from that conference that we are still waiting to hear about. But one of the big pieces of news, you alluded to it, Eric, is that there was sort of a confirmation from some government officials that stateside visa renewal processing for H's and L's will begin to occur in August. There'll be sort of a pilot program rollout, which is great news. It hasn't been easy to be an L1 visa holder. It's never been easy to be an L1 visa holder, quite frankly. For the most part, a lot of the folks who are on an L1 are on what's called a blanket L. So their company has a sort of a blanket petition that allows them to expedite their application process for the visa.
Mhm.
But in most cases, it requires them to return back to their home country every 3 years or so to renew that visa. filing it out with USCIS has been a difficult venture in the past with lots of delays, high risk of RFE, all that sorts of stuff. So it's exciting. The State Department is going to allow these L1 applicants again who they get approved for these visas. They're highly qualified for these visas that they're in the U.S. Working on. Every 3 years, they just have to re-up it, regardless of whether or not their job has changed or anything like that. So it should hopefully ease some tension for a lot of families, a lot of employees, and a lot of companies. So look forward to seeing what that actually looks like in practice.
For sure. Yeah, that's definitely great news. Where do you recommend listeners just stay follow this news and best source of info when this like officially gets unveiled and whatnot?
Envoyglobal.com.
There you
Go
go.
there, and we'll keep you up to date.
Awesome. Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, no, and like I said, I think it's very it's welcome news for everyone that you mentioned. So definitely stay tuned. And then Finn, just quickly shifting to the global front. As I'm sure you know, and our listeners know, a lot of developments in other countries. As we've talked about, they just are able to move much more quickly on immigration and change things as needed. There was an excellent deep dive from Bloomberg about Canada's immigration efforts and attracting more immigrants. Um, they write, Canada's at the forefront of betting on immigration to stave off economic decline. And due to immigration, recently Canada passed 40 million people for the first time ever, and population growth is still expected to continue. Highly recommend reading this. As I mentioned, it's a pretty good deep dive, so we'll include the link in the show notes when this episode is up. And then on the more, and then shifting to Germany, we've talked about in the past, I think with Brendan Coggin, and then just a couple of other updates. But the German government has been discussing updating their immigration system just to, again, kind of meet the demands of the labor market. And similarly, they have an aging population that are it's going to be retiring more and more. And so the German Parliament recently passed legislation to open up new opportunities for job seekers from countries outside the EU and for refugees who are already in Germany. They're going to be introducing a point system and something called an opportunity card that will essentially allow foreigners who don't have a job lined up to come to Germany for 1 year to find a job. And this card, according to DW, will also permit casual work for up to 20 hours a week while looking for a qualified job. So Germany's definitely introducing improvement or enhancements to their immigration system, and I think before the end of the year, it seems like they might introduce a new citizenship law. So definitely much more to come based on reporting. And Finn, with that, I think we're ready to hop into the episode. Thank you so much for the update on the stateside visa renewal. We'll keep everyone posted there. And for everyone listening, this last week of June, we will be taking the 4th of July holiday off. So our next episode we will release on July 11th. And so hope everyone tunes in for that. And so with that, Finn, have a great 4th of July holiday. And up next is our conversation with Bryan Rivers.
And now I'd like to welcome Bryan Rivers, Relocation Banking Product Manager at First Tech Federal Credit Union, to Immigration and Mobility Decoded. Bryan, thank you so much for hopping on the show today.
Happy to be here, Eric. Good to be with you.
Yeah, thanks. How are you? How are things going on your end? How's your summer off? Starting off?
Yeah, it's busy. I got a couple teenagers in the home. They're very avid into sports, and we're feeling that right now. We're winding down with baseball. We are getting ready to go with football, and I'm helping coach, and it's crazy. It's fun, but yeah, summer is off and running, and we're right in the thick of it with sports, and it'll be exciting.
Nice. That's awesome. How do your kids do like travel baseball, or is it like a league type
Yeah,
thing?
no, this is not a travel league that they're in right now. It's more of a junior league within the little league system, and it's more of a kind of a prep right now for freshman year baseball next year. So not too serious of an organized structure, but just keeps the feet wet a little bit and keep them warmed up. And then high school kind of takes over, and that'll be fun to watch as well.
For sure, for sure. Um, well, I'm sure you and I can talk sports, not only with, high school, collegiate, and pros. You're on the West Coast, so imagine, are you 49ers fan?
Yeah, absolutely. Big time 49er fan. Have been since I was a little kid. Their glory days back in the 80s. And now just what they went through last season. For those that don't know, the quarterback situation out here was dealt a few rough blows, but it turned out with this really shiny young Mr. Irrelevant in the draft that we're excited to see come back. Hopefully, Brock Purdy's ready
Hmm.
day one, and very excited to see what we can do. We have a good team, good coaching staff, and yeah, very excited.
Nice, nice. Final, my one friendly jab, if you will, is I'm glad the Niners passed on Justin Fields back in the 21 draft, because I'm in Chicago, so we might have our guy finally.
There you go. No, that's
Yeah.
good for you guys. Very good for you guys.
Yeah. So Brian, thanks for hopping on today, and really just wanted to talk to you about your career in global mobility, particularly the financial services side, as well as some other topics. But just curious, how did your career in the financial services side of global mobility start?
Yeah, it's unique. I mean, I think everyone I've talked to over the last several years has somewhat fallen into mobility. I think that's the story I hear quite a bit, and I did too. I worked for First Tech Federal as a credit union, financial institution like a bank. Credit unions and banks differ a little bit in their philosophies and their culture. But we were born, First Tech was born out of being Hewlett Packard's credit union many years ago. That's kind of how we started. And as a result, we've grown, obviously. We've merged with a couple others and always stayed really close to that tech space and tech sector. So when I first started at First Tech 13 years ago, I came in on the lending side as a loan processor and spent some time there and found out in time that we kind of had this really smaller subset at First Tech that we worked with on behalf of some of our employer partners like Microsoft, like Hewlett Packard, where they had a need for a product set that really helped people that were coming into the U.S. Kind of help them get started, land on their feet. They were being asked to move over here by that employer, and when they would get here, they would hit a wall when it came to being able to build credit and that kind of stuff. So we have a product set at First Tech that really caters to that. I kind of found out about it, jumped into it, eyes wide open, and started really figuring it out. And it took a couple years to understand everything outside of what I was seeing at First Tech when I would get into the mobility sector and start attending some of the regional councils and realize, whoa, there's this massive industry out there that's much bigger than what I'm doing for these individuals. So um, yeah, I've been in that space at First Tech for probably the last 8 years now. And my role here at First Tech is really to align our partners internally, all our different mortgage, insurance, lending, and externally promote it and talk about it and work with some of our direct relationships with employers, work with some of our relationships we have with destination service providers and RMCs as well.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Great to hear. So you mentioned can you dive a little bit more into the products and services that you oversee and you help
Yeah.
um And the work that you do with those individuals that are coming to the US on, a work visa, um, what are some of the initial challenges that you and your team see when working with these individuals for the first time?
Yeah, well, here's where I'll start. Most of the other, lenders or banks that are represented in the global mobility space are what I've encountered for the most part. You'll run into the mortgage individual, the person that represents mortgage for that bank. And mortgage is a huge driver in this space. Obviously, with the domestic play, even the international play, mortgage is a very important product that many need. I am not necessarily representative of just the mortgage product here at First Tech. I represent the whole package, and the package is really end to end from, obviously it includes mortgage, but everything in between, everything you're going to need if you were to show up in a new country tomorrow. You're going to need a debit card. You're going to need a checking account. You're going to need insurance. You're going to need to build some credit quickly, probably. So I represent the whole product set that really caters and rolls a red carpet out to these individuals. When not even when they land, but even before they land, so that when they do get here, um, they're set to go. And I think that's a differentiator for me, for First Tech, being we get labeled a lender in this space, which is fine, but there's much more to it. It's a much more expansive product set that really helps these individuals, helps their families when they're contemplating the move over here to the U.S. So um, I think you asked what are some of the challenges I've seen from the standpoint of the transferee. I think, if you think about all of the context that they have and all of the managing they're doing within a move, 6 months prior up to 6 months after, the amount of people they're talking to from their employer, from moving companies, household goods, temporary housing, immigration. I mean, it's got to be very, very, very intense. And what we try to do is reach out before they've even left, and really get their accounts open, activated, set up before they leave their home country. Ideally, if they landed, it would be nice to have U.S. dollars available to you the second you get off the plane, and that's what we try and do. So I would say some of the challenges that I've heard, and it works out because we have the solve for it, is getting those accounts activated and open, and giving them instructions, wire instructions. They can wire funds over here, so they're already converted into U.S. dollars. They can provide account information to their employer if they're getting any kind of deposits from their employer. So everything is set up, ready to go. When they get here, and the inability to do that, I know, has been challenging for some, if they haven't experienced what we have.
Hmm. So would you say it's fair? It's better to be proactive about setting up these checking accounts, getting those debit cards, and getting all that set up before that foreign national individual and their family steps foot into the country.
Yeah, I mean, all the feedback that I've received since I've been talking about what we can do in this space, not only from the transferee, but from the corporates, from the destination service providers, being able to get this set up prior really saves some time. For example,
Mhm.
if you did land today, and whether it's later today or tomorrow, you have to go to a bank and get an account open. You're going to spend a little bit of time in a branch, and it's going to be, I don't know. I see that as a little inconvenient. If I can open everything up for you electronically, and have your debit card waiting for you here when you land, and have your funds already activated and sitting in your account, um, that's just a better experience. You're going to need time to do everything else you need to do that first day, that first week when you land in country. So take this piece, as long as it's able to be handled prior to
Mhm.
landing, and get it done with.
Yeah,
It's very convenient, and that's the feedback I've received.
got it. Brian, I'm curious. Have you ever had a conversation, or you've been working with someone and they're asking, why can't I just use the bank account I have set up in my home country? Uh, how do you navigate that type of situations, and is that
Yeah.
even possible to use that like a home country bank account?
It's very sticky, and I'd say that doesn't come up a whole lot.
Mm.
Typically, when they're here on assignment, whether it's for a couple months, a couple years, or it's permanent, they're under the understanding that they since they are getting paid, from a U.S. In U.S. dollars, that they do need to open up a bank account. That doesn't mean that they need to close any bank account they have in their home country. That's something they can manage from afar. They can wire funds from here to that bank if they need to or wanted to. But if they're going to be sitting here in the U.S., working, living for any substantial amount of time, it is necessary that they, especially if they're getting paid in U.S. dollars. Now, I have had certain instances where people come over here on assignment, and they are going to remain getting paid um, in their native currency. And in
Mm.
that case, yeah, they could, that would still work for them, but they would probably need to open an account here for life, to be able to handle the day to day stuff. But that's very rare. So to answer your question, I don't get that question a whole lot. Most are under the understanding that, hey, we're here, we're going to start living and operating and playing here in the U.S. And I do need a bank account. Um, I would say, to just jump on top of that, many people from abroad are very familiar with some of those big name banks. You've heard of the BofAs, they've heard of Wells Fargo, Chase, HSBC. So part of what we do, because we are a credit union, we do differ a little bit from a bank, from a culture perspective, is explain to them what we are and how we're very similar, and some of the small subtle differences between us and a bank. And overall, credit unions are member owned; they're not for profits, so that resonates well with them once they understand it. And it's just an added, looking out for their best interest. That's kind of the model of a credit union, whether we're talking transferees or not.
Hmm.
Um, we are really advocating for our members and looking out to turn profits for them, not necessarily shareholders.
Right, right. So on the topic of some of the cultural differences, are there any misconceptions when discussing how finances work here in the U.S. versus someone's home country?
Yeah, I think there always is. And when I worked on the front line with this population years ago, I can think of a few different things that caught me off guard, or I had to change about things I was doing or saying. Certain countries, the accounts are backwards. What we refer to as a checking account, they refer to as a savings account, and vice versa. Um, I would say, acronyms that me or you get used to, abbreviations, slang, so to speak. There was an incident where I was working with somebody a few years ago, and I was telling them that with our program they qualify for an auto loan, and you or I, or most people listening, understand what I meant when I said auto loan, but that's abbreviated for automobile loan. And that individual, had to ask me, what do you mean auto loan? You mean I automatically get a loan, an auto loan? And I was like, well, sorry. And I had to spread that amongst my team. So, there was a few of those in my evolution working with this subset. But we really try, and the people that work with this population at First Tech, that's all they do all day, every day, and they've been in their role. I think the one with the least tenure has been here maybe 6 years. So they've been working with this population, and they're very sensitive to that, and they understand nuances and trends, whether it's people coming from India, from Singapore, from South America. So there is some differences. There definitely is, but we feel very equipped and ready to be able to kind of evolve and cater to that when it's needed.
That's really awesome to hear though. Just the amount of experience that your team
Yeah.
has. Like, I feel it it can be undervalued a little bit. Just the wealth of knowledge, understanding some of those intricacies and cultural differences and then you guys are just able to hit the ground running. Really help the individuals and their families.
Yeah, and I think one of the other pieces to understanding is what they're going through right now. You know, when we
Right.
get in touch with somebody, whether it's their employer sent them our way or they've reached out to us because they've been referred to us, I want my team to understand exactly what's going on with them right now. This is not a typical person walking in for a new account off the street. This is
Mhm.
somebody that is uprooting their life, their family from one part of the globe and moving to another. That is a major, major, major life impact event. So I kind of say internally here, you know, next to getting married, next to having kids, this is a huge, huge, huge life event that they're going through. So um, you have the potential of doing really really good by the transferee and really helping them out. You also have the potential of really screwing it up and giving a huge headache to them, an experience that they would never forget. So we always try to keep front of mind, you know, what they're going through, the amount of contacts, the preparation, the planning, the management that's going on to orchestrate this move. We really try to make this little sliver that we have to help them out just easy, breezy, very very convenient, and burdenless. So that's what we strive to do. We kind of help obtain that and make that a reality by assigning them one of the people on my team, and that's
Mhm.
their single point of contact for their journey with the credit union. So we're not necessarily going to pass them around to this department should they want this product or that department. We have universal soldiers, so to speak, that can kind of speak to and help excuse me, with everything. And that's a huge plus because, like I said earlier, they're juggling contacts and cell phone contacts and people all over to get this move done. So when they do get linked up with First Tech, they have a solid person that can help them from step one to step 21, no
Mhm.
matter what they need. And
Yeah.
that journey can take a while. You know, we could reach out a couple months before they move, and then they land, and we help them get all their credit established. And you know, maybe 6 to 8 months later, they need a home loan. That journey from start to finish sometimes can be, you know, 8 to 10 to 12 months before they feel like they have everything they need for that time.
Yeah. That single point of contact is that's awesome to hear because I mean just comparing it to my I know I'm not your target the the customer you're working with, but like my joint checking account with my wife is with one of the big national banks.
Mm-hmm.
And every time we go, it's always a different person, or you call, it's always a different person, and you don't
Yeah.
have that same relationship that it's on that your team has.
Right. Yeah, no, they definitely know they're helping them through something very big. And like I said, I spent many years on the front line working with this subset, these individuals, and I still, you know, every single week get somebody that you know reaches out to me that I helped 7 8 years ago,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
that's great. I love getting that, but it really I think speaks to um, what you really did for them, and they remembered that
Hmm.
because it was that huge life impact. You did help out. You were able to throw them a life preserver, so to speak, when they were making that move and get them set up and hit the ground running and have both feet under them. All that.
So, Brian, in addition to the services, the products that your team provides, you mentioned the checking accounts, savings accounts, debit cards, auto loans, mortgages, etc. Does your team also help out and provide finance 101 type content and education for individuals and their families?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, the credit union kind of philosophy is really about advocation. We advocate for our members, educate our members, and we are constantly rolling out content material to help with that. So, and I'm not just talking about, you know, the mobility population, transferees, and the subset I manage. Our whole membership has access to this information, and we are always curating content that's relevant, that helps them no matter what stage of life they're in, whether they're about to retire and they need investment advice, whether they've got their first career type job and they're set up their 401k. You know, if they're looking to buy their first auto loan, they're looking to invest in the stock market. banking 101, like you spoke about, or home lending. We have content already built that they can access. We have a library they can jump into and pull any of those off the shelf and watch that webinar. We also host a lot of live sessions as well. And when we do that, we send it out to our membership to jump in, register, and sign up. And those sessions are usually 40-45 minutes about a specific topic. And they have the ability to chat with us, ask questions, set up appointments if they need to out of that chat. But yeah, we are all about advocation and educating our base of members, especially the group that we're working with as well, specifically my side.
Nice. So Bryan, maybe shifting a little bit more to the human resources, the global mobility specialists side of things. As you know, yeah, global mobility is kind of this giant umbrella that has a lot of different sectors. You mentioned your side, the financial side. Envoy Global does like immigration, then you have the relocation, moving, et cetera, et cetera. So in this process, who reaches out to you first to inquire about setting up these bank accounts and other financial products? Is it the individual themselves who's going to be coming over to the US, or is it maybe their employer, or is it someone else?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And the answer is all the above, to be honest with you. And the reason why is because we have different relationships with different parts, different sections of that umbrella that you're talking about. So at First Tech, we have several direct relationships with some of our employers. And in that regard, I'm getting initiations or, orders, whatever we want to call it. Everyone has their own, term for it, directly from that corporate. Or there'll be corporates that we work with that send our information directly to their employee and leave it up to them to reach out. I have relationships with some RMCs that send directly to us and put that transferee in CC and say, hey, Bryan and team, I want you to meet so and so. And then I get a bunch of referrals from somebody that we helped move over here with Amazon, for example, and they have somebody else that's looking to come over, 2 months down the road, and they give us, give them our information. So we have many different verticals that we can intake from, and that truly is the way it goes. So the answer truly is all the above, and we're happy to really customize that, so to speak, depending on who we're talking to. If I'm talking to an RMC about one of their clients, I'll let them quarterback that. What do you want to do? Do you want to warm intro us to that transferee? Do you want to just give a link out to them and let them make the decision to reach out if they want? And that's really how it goes. But we're able to customize that based on the appetite for whoever we're working with.
Nice. So, kind of thinking about this entire process, what words of wisdom do you have for all the stakeholders involved in this relocation process?
I think we slightly touched on it earlier, and I'll kind of restate it. And the beauty behind what we can do, I believe, and this is not just my own opinion, but what I've heard in the field, whether we're talking to RMCs, whether we're talking to destination services, or directly with the corporates, is getting the account opened up. Let's say 60 days before they leave their home country. We can do that. They don't need a social security number to get it going, and that's when I explain that. That's kind of light bulbs go off, and that's big time, and that helps quite a bit. So I would say words of wisdom. If you don't know that can be done, reach out to me and I can explain more to you. But ultimately, assuming that can be done and we can help with that, that's a huge win, not only for the transferee, but for their employer as well. Sometimes for the immigration partner that they're working with, to be able to get that bank account set up, convert money to US dollars, peace of mind it provides, but also the convenience, like I said, from their employer, from payroll, maybe with the immigration partners that they're utilizing, to have that kind of all done, set up, and established. 60 days before they leave Singapore, before they leave, somewhere in South America. That's huge, and that would be my biggest piece of advice: is that can be done. It's better when it is done earlier, and we can help.
Awesome, awesome. So, Brian, I know earlier we were talking a little bit about some of the differences of how you mentioned in other countries our checking account might be their savings account, and vice versa. Uh, in your professional career, have you come across anything? Is there anything about how other countries approach and handle their banking and personal finance that you wish we had here in the U.S.?
I truly don't know. I don't, and it's a good question. I'm sure that there is. I'm sure there are nuances that some countries do that make a lot of sense.
Mhm.
I just don't know. I haven't personally banked in other countries, um, and I don't know offhand. I can't think of anything that I've heard from the subset of folks that I've been working with for the last decade. Um, so yeah, that's a tough one. I'm sorry I don't have more
Yeah,
information for you on that.
yeah. No, it's totally fine. It's yeah, no, it's I'm always curious and about the same things as well. So, but yeah,
Yeah, and the people that ultimately are listening, I would love to hear them answer that. If there are people who have experience with some of the other institutions and regulations at foreign banks, what do you like? That would be
yeah.
really cool to hear. I'm sure there's people out there that are familiar with it and that can chime in. But that would be good stuff to understand.
Yeah, for sure. Comment below if you're watching on YouTube. um, so Brian, I guess as we kind of approach the end, I mean, I've been learning a lot. And correct me if I'm wrong. And you mentioned, being proactive, but it seems to get the checking accounts and some of these products set up, it's relatively straightforward. But are there any hurdles that you would like listeners to be aware of throughout this journey?
I would say hurdles. All we need actually to get an account open is really an offer letter. That's
Hmm.
detailing their assignment from their employer, a work visa, and a passport. With that information, we can get everything going. Now, building credit, obtaining credit card, all that kind of stuff, online banking access. We will need to wait until they obtain their social security number to give them all that next round of good stuff. Um, so sometimes, obviously people are interested in building credit. If you can open up the checking account without a social, and before we get there, can we get a credit card? Now, unfortunately, we can't do that. We definitely need you to get that social security number. But once they do get it, Eric, that day we have programs that we built that will allow them $25,000 in unsecured credit that day at very very attractive pricing. So we can definitely help with all that stuff, but it's kind of a step one is to get that checking account open. And step two is really once you land and arrive, you get that social security number. We can then kind of unveil a lot of other programs we have around building credit, auto loans, mortgages, and so on.
Nice, nice. So Brian, putting the spotlight a little bit more on you. You are a member and part of the Puget Sound Relo Council, correct?
Yeah, I'm on the board there with a handful of other talented individuals, and yeah, very involved with that regional. It's obviously in a great area, mecca, so to speak, with some of the people in our industry. But yeah, I enjoy that.
Can you talk a little bit more about the Relo group, some of the work that you guys are doing, and if you have any events coming up?
Yeah, no, it's a great regional. Karim Mossman is our president, and like I said, we have a handful of board members. We just earlier last month had a spring meeting up there and did a lot of good work with some of our charities. Urban Teen is one of them. And we have a meeting coming up on July 27th as well. So if anyone is interested in finding out more or will be in the area, I'd like to attend that meeting. I would have them go to the website, the landing page we have dedicated to that council, and it is pnwrc.net. And they can go ahead and sign up, register for our next event if they want to become a member to that council. We'd be happy to have them.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Any other events coming up, Brian? Maybe with First Tech, anything coming up that you want to highlight and plug?
With First Tech, not in the next coming weeks that I can think of. I mean, I'm involved in many regionals. I think we are involved in about 9 of them. So there's always an event somewhere at some time that I can jump into. But being selfish and personally, I'm leaving a couple days to take the family to Maui. We're heading to Hawaii for a week and a half, and I am very excited about that. So I will plug me and the family taking off and going to Hawaii and enjoying some sun and fun out there.
That sounds so nice, and I am so jealous. You'll have to let us know how that trip is. I'll be going out to
Absolutely.
Hawaii in November.
Oh, good.
But yeah, so looking forward to that. But yeah, no, you'll have to give me all the good spots to visit and some of the activities that you guys do.
I would absolutely be happy to.
Awesome. Well, Brian, final question for you. Where can people find you to chat with you, or maybe just to learn more about the services, or maybe work with you?
Yeah, I'm happy to take any phone calls, emails from anybody that would just have any questions based on the content they heard here today. There's obviously a lot more. We can dive deeper on specific program services that we have. Anyone can find me on LinkedIn, Bryan Rivers, Bryan spelled with a Y. And my email address is brian.rivers@firsttechfed, like fed like federal.com. Anyone can drop me a line there. Like I said, reach out on LinkedIn. And we'd be happy to set up a call at any point to chat, whatever it is, big or small, to educate more people on what we do, how we do it, and receive feedback as well.
Great. Well, Brian, it was awesome chatting with you today. I learned a lot, and eh, I am, and like a little fun. I don't know if it's a fun fact, but I do enjoy absorbing as much as I can about personal finance and some of like the banking products that are out there, and just seeing what makes the most sense. So, thank you so much for sharing all this information today, and hopefully, our listeners also just learned a lot more as well.
Yeah, no, thank you for the platform, Eric. I appreciate it, and I'm happy to jump on again with you. I appreciate what you do and the time that you dedicate to try and help inform people on what's out there, and that's really what we want to be, is just another tool in the tool belt for some of these individuals, some of these employers and partners in global mobility. So, thank you for you and your team, all you guys do, and it was fun, and happy to do it again.
Awesome. Yep. Well, we will have you back. Appreciate the kind words, and we'll chat soon. Thanks so
All
much.
right, thank you.